Hello TYT Sports, hello Facebook, hello everybody. This is a special edition of 10:05 Live, actually coming to you later on the next day. It's actually Wednesday morning here on the West Coast. I know some of you tried to join last night. We tried to get 10:05 Live going here, but there was connection issues, all kinds of stuff going on. So eventually, we just said, you know what, we'll find another avenue. We'll find another way to bring the show to you. So I'm recording it locally here, and then I'm going to upload it up to the TYT Sports page so that at least we can have our weekly update of 10:05 Live. I will still be doing a YouTube video for a No Mercy Fallout show, and then what that is going to mean going forward. All of these pay-per-views, especially as we get deeper into the year, are going to start setting up WrestleMania-worthy events and WrestleMania main events and big matches that we're going to see next year in April. And No Mercy was no different. So we'll be doing a separate video talking about that. But it goes without saying that there are some spoilers here. If you didn't catch No Mercy, because we had some spoilers, obviously, on Raw, we knew what was going to happen. SmackDown didn't address any of those, but if you don't know what happened at No Mercy, you hadn't had a chance to watch it yet, then cease and desist now, because we are going to mention some of those things as we go through the show. So I thank everyone for their patience and sticking with us as we go through this. Everything should be fine next week when I'm back at home, but as you can see by the meager surroundings here, I'm in a hotel room out here in Bremerton, Washington. So anyway, let's dive right in. So Raw this week was the No Mercy Fallout show. So we had No Mercy on Sunday, and what we got first was we had two winners out there. We had Roman Reigns and we had The Miz. Roman Reigns was successful in his match against John Cena, and The Miz was successful in his Intercontinental title defense. So both of these guys are standing on pretty firm ground, and what we started to get, it looks as if we're getting some kind of setup for the Shield versus the Miztourage. So that means that it is extremely possible, now nothing has been confirmed yet, but it is extremely possible we may be getting a Shield reunion here pretty soon. And their first opponents may very well be the Miztourage. There was a lot of overt suggestions into this during this promo when The Miz said that the Miztourage would have been for the Shield if they had existed at the same time, which elicited an appropriate reaction of laughter and kind of dismissive guffaws from both the audience and Roman Reigns, because that idea is preposterous. The Shield was one of the biggest factions that the WWE has had in recent years. Their merchandise was through the roof. The ratings every time they were on went through the roof. So to say that the Miztourage could somehow even compete at that level is just patently ridiculous. But it sets up something fun, because I see the Miztourage, if indeed this match comes to pass and we get a Shield reunion versus the Miztourage, will be a good appetizer for something more to come. What I would like to see, if they're going to actually invest the time in bringing the Shield back, then let's have the Miztourage be an appetizer for that match, and then face somebody bigger. Possibly at Survivor Series, maybe somebody like the New Day, somebody worthy of the Shield. But it remains to be seen how that goes. Obviously, the Shield coming together would be a big moment, and that would go over extremely well. So we'll hope that maybe, I don't know if we'll get a match as soon as the next Raw pay-per-view, which is TLC, or if they're going to keep extending this out and maybe saving it for something bigger like Survivor Series. Moving on, so of course the Miztourage beat down Roman Reigns, and then they did the Shield fist bump over him. Just more kind of teasing of the Shield, and eventually Rollins and Ambrose are going to hear enough of that, and that's maybe how the Shield will actually come back together, even if it's just for one or two matches. Braun Strowman kind of going on this path of destruction in the wake of his loss to Brock Lesnar at No Mercy is always a fun thing. Braun Strowman going on this rampage because there's nobody on the roster who can stop him other than Brock Lesnar, who's a part-timer anyway. So it's fun seeing him destroy Kurt Hawkins, who took the smart route and tried to run away, but Braun Strowman caught him and beat him up. And then Dean Ambrose comes down and says, he's going to do his own thing and tries to face the monster among men, and of course he gets destroyed too. But seeing Braun in this role, it makes the loss that he had to Lesnar a little more palatable, because people still know how strong and dominant Braun Strowman is, even in the face of somebody like Brock Lesnar. So I think what WWE is doing with him is absolutely the right move. Moving on to Enzo Amore. Enzo is exactly where he needs to be. And we got a firm character development here, not just for Enzo, but for Neville. For the longest time, Neville has been a bad guy. He turned heel when he became Cruiserweight champion, even a little bit before that, and he did great in that role. So he's been kind of running roughshod around the Cruiserweights. And then he had an upset loss at No Mercy, Amore. Now, it was due to a low blow and a ref distraction, which are heel things. So in that moment, Enzo firmly established himself as the new heel in the Cruiserweight division. And so he's doing all the things that a heel needs to do. He's taking credit for 205 Live getting better. He's being super annoying. He went and bothered Kurt Angle about getting some kind of no contact clause so people can't beat him up while he's champion. I mean, all the things that a heel would do. So, it fits his personality perfectly, because he does seem like that guy who's just super annoying. Like, yeah, he's kind of funny at times, but for the most part, you just want to get away from him. Everybody knows somebody like that. So that being that relatable to real life is helping his character move along. So he goes out and he insults the entire Cruiserweight division. Neville finally comes out, and not only is he upset about losing his title, he's upset at what Enzo's doing, and so he defies the no contact clause, beats him up, and then at least gets some catharsis for himself. Now, this accomplishes two things. It accomplishes the fact that we've now established Neville is turned face and Enzo is turned heel. It also pulls Neville out of the title picture for a while, and that's a good thing. Neville has been champ, other than the random loss, to Akira. It was kind of a weird moment for him, but he still has been the predominant title holder for the Cruiserweight division and helped build it up for at least a little while. So him getting pulled out of that is not a bad thing, because this allows some of the other really talented guys in the Cruiserweight division to go and challenge Enzo, and to have some creative ways to write Enzo retaining his belt against all of these other wrestlers who are much more talented than he is. So it'll be interesting to see how the WWE wants to take this. Moving on, Alexa Bliss continues to be great. She retained her women's championship at No Mercy. Asuka's on the horizon, so we know Asuka's coming in October. What I fear is that I don't want them to push her too soon. I know a lot of people are so high on Asuka, they want to see her streak continue on the main roster. They want to see her come in and just completely dominate everybody. But from a storyline perspective, first of all, that's no fun. If you have someone who wins all the time, it gets boring. So Asuka's eventually, she's going to have to lose some matches here. That's just the reality of it. And I also don't think she should be thrown into a title picture right away. I still believe that Nia Jax should be the one to dethrone Bliss and hold the title for a while. And if they want to set up a Nia Jax versus Asuka feud, I'm more than okay with that, because Nia Jax is extremely over on the main roster. So, and Asuka's got this cult following that is going to come with her when she arrives. So you could potentially have a match where you've got two people who the crowd both really enjoy and really root for. So it becomes a win-win for us if they're facing each other. Kind of like how Shinsuke Nakamura was brought up. And they immediately, he had a couple of matches, but then they threw him into the title picture and gave him a title shot against Jinder Mahal, which he lost, and now he's going to get another one. To me, they're squandering that character by, instead of having him go through some of the other belts and a little bit of the lower tiers and actually establish some credibility, establish some domination. Almost like what they did with Braun Strowman. I mean, Braun Strowman had this was his first Universal title opportunity, and he's been around for a while. His singles opportunity anyway. So having him be around for a while and develop that before they threw him into the title picture was the right choice. And I think they should do the same thing with Asuka. So Alexa Bliss, of course, comes out and trashes all the other women. And Mickie James, the veteran, the salty veteran, comes out. And sometimes that's all you need to sell a good feud. You just need the heel and the face squaring off. The heel says something, the face comes out and says, hey, why don't you shut your mouth, or I'll kick your teeth down your throat, like Driver style. And then that's it. That's all. That can be a simple setup for two people to fight, instead of just, hey, this match is happening. Well, I don't understand why. Well, here it gives you the reason. All the 5 W's are right there. It's simple and it was effective. So Rollins had a single match with Sheamus, mostly because of what Dean Ambrose had done earlier by kind of going off on his own and trying to face Braun Strowman and getting hurt, so he couldn't be in this match. But Cesaro was ringside and didn't get involved in Sheamus's match either. So Rollins beat Sheamus, which is pretty cool. Here's something I didn't know. Seth Rollins' finishing move is actually called King's Landing, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm like, oh, okay, that's, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, then that's pretty funny. Finn Balor defeated Goldust for the same kind of reason, just because he had a match with him. We're seeing more evidence that the Balor Wyatt feud may not be over. And although Finn Balor is 2-0 against Bray Wyatt, it appears that they may up that to either 3-0 or 2-1, or they're going to probably have another match. I don't know if they'll keep it out for the next pay-per-view for TLC, but it looks as if this feud is far from over, which is unfortunate for us because both guys need to move on to something, anything, because it's not doing anything for them. Bayley and Sasha teamed up to defeat Emma and Nia Jax. Well, what I took away from this was, if the WWE is actually going to do a segment with the MMA horsewomen, then neither Bayley or Sasha are turning heel anytime soon. So all of these things will relate to each other depending on the other real world events that may or may not happen. If they end up doing this crossover with the MMA women, then they're going to need as many WWE women wrestlers in their corner as possible. So, and there's been a lot of will they or won't they, and in regards to Bayley and Sasha, whether or not one of them is going to have a big character shift. So I get it'll all stem from whether or not the MMA crossover actually comes to fruition. Elias defeated Apollo Crews pretty easily. This whole experiment with Titus O'Neil and Titus Worldwide was supposed to be a parody of LeVar Ball, and yet it's just been an abject disappointment because more often than not his client loses. So that doesn't really bring any kind of positive effect to you. That doesn't make other wrestlers want to join your stable if you keep losing. You can be an effective manager, but your wrestler has to win. Now, I get it if they don't want to make Titus O'Neil a heel character and have him, cheat to win like Mr. Fuji or any, a lot of the other great managers who would directly interfere with matches and things like that. But still, you've got to bring some credibility to who you're sponsoring. And Apollo Crews loses a whole hell of a lot more than he wins. So this latest loss to Elias just is kind of a head scratcher for what they want to do. I guess Elias taunted Titus O'Neil a little bit. At least that's how it seemed. That's how it came off. So I wonder if Titus is eventually going to get in the ring with him. I don't know if that does much for anybody besides Elias, that he's wrestling somebody who used to be a thing a couple years ago. But other than that, it doesn't do much. Finally, we had Matt Hardy and Jason Jordan had a tag match with Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, the other forgettable members of the Miz Taraj. Jeff Hardy, as you can see down here on the scroll, he's got a rotator cuff tear, so he's going to be out for a while because he's going to need surgery on his shoulder. So Matt is going to be competing in singles competition for a while. Now that's interesting because the whole broken gimmick that he came in from Impact Wrestling is still in the legal chain. So technically they still can't use that gimmick. But I wonder if that gets resolved sometime within the next few months while Jeff is rehabbing. Is it possible that they could incorporate that into the story? If Matt has more singles matches against bigger opponents and that causes him to become broken, is that the way they can actually introduce the broken universe into the WWE, provided that all of that gets resolved? It's possible, and I've heard no rumors or anything about that. It's just me thinking, well, here's a way for them to write that in, provided that all that legal stuff gets resolved, and while Matt is going to be competing on his own while Jeff is rehabbing from his injury. So that was Raw. Overall, it was a fairly mediocre Fallout show. Fallout shows are hit or miss. They can, usually the ones after WrestleMania are almost always a hit because the energy is so high. Everybody's still having a lot of fun from the last show. But random pay-per-views like this, it's kind of a toss-up on whether or not you're actually going to be enjoyable. And this one, it was okay. Moving on to SmackDown, which was last night. So as it normally is for 10:05 Live, we try to shoot the show 5 minutes after SmackDown ends at 10:05 p.m. East Coast time. But due to the gremlins who infected the system, obviously we're posting this here Wednesday morning, West Coast time. So SmackDown continues the storyline with Shane and Kevin Owens, the Shane and Kevin Owens feud. I don't want to beat this point again, but I kept saying it. I hate the idea that Shane McMahon being involved in this. I don't like the idea of Shane being involved in any high-profile matches, whether it's at WrestleMania or any pay-per-view. Stop being involved in wrestler business. You're not a wrestler. You should not be involved in these matches. These feuds can go to so many other people. This isn't the Monday Night Wars where everyone wants to see the boss or the owner get into a fight with the employee, and that's a real hyped-up storyline that we're really interested in seeing. We're not. I want to see two wrestlers competing against each other. Shane's not a wrestler. So it's a lose-lose for Kevin Owens. I've said that before, so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. But Kevin Owens comes out and does what Kevin Owens does really well, because not only is he a wrestler, he's a great trash talker. So he's trashing Shane, and then his old buddy Sami Zayn comes out. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens had some fantastic matches back in NXT and even before, and they were billed as the best of friends. And then just before Kevin Owens came to the main roster, he turned on Zayn and turned heel, and then the rest was history. So it was a fantastic character shift for Kevin Owens that did wonders for his character. But he and Zayn had just amazing, incredible matches together because they work really well together. So Owens is trashing Zayn. Zayn is trashing Owens. And, you know, used to be, you know, when we were friends, but I know what it's like when you flip out, and then yada yada yada. And so Daniel Bryan says, well, hell, let's just make this a match. This will be the main event for later on tonight. So everybody's happy because you know you're going to get a quality match out of these two guys. Ty Dillinger and Baron Corbin had a match with AJ Styles on commentary, so of course you know there's going to be some kind of shenanigans between Corbin and AJ. Corbin attacks Styles and challenges him formally to a match at Hell in the Cell for the U.S. title. So at least Baron Corbin may be out of the doghouse for the WWE. I mean, he lost his Money in the Bank match. The rumor was that it was because he had a very vocal argument against some of the CTE discussions that were happening backstage. I don't know if there's any legitimacy to that, if that's the reason why, or if the WWE just didn't feel as if he should be in the title picture. But one thing we do know is that he lost his Money in the Bank contract, so now he's had to go down to at least a lower belt, which is the U.S. title, which the WWE keeps trying to prop up in importance, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. I think what they need to do is get a new design for that belt because it's absolutely atrocious. Jinder Mahal comes out to do his thing. I was interested to see if he was actually going to apologize, because the WWE did get a lot of negative press for what had happened over the last few weeks, where Jinder Mahal was being pretty racist and making fun of Shinsuke Nakamura's culture, his Asian culture and heritage and stuff like that. So because of that, I wondered how the WWE was going to address that and how Jinder Mahal was going to address it. So he comes out and sort of kind of half-heartedly apologizes, but then immediately goes right back into the same shtick that he's been doing the last 2 weeks, where he puts up pictures of Shinsuke Nakamura and he's like, oh, his face would look like this, his face would look, and it's not funny. It hasn't been funny for a while, but it's stupid and it's boring, and it's like it tells me that the writers don't know what to do with him as far as him being a good heel champion, other than just, well, we can kind of make fun of his face. Well, that's the same well you've been dipping into for 2 weeks now, 3 weeks. So but this one got kind of turned on its head a little bit at the end, when it appeared that they were showing a picture of Shinsuke Nakamura, but it wasn't. It was actual live video of him. And so he talks a little bit about Jinder Mahal, comes out, attacks the Singh brothers, and they get into a little bit of a scuffle, and then he's able to hit the Kinshasa on Jinder Mahal and finally get some revenge for just the last few weeks. I hope that that's the end of those terrible promos that they've been doing for Mahal. I hope they don't ever go back to that. They were not effective. They weren't funny. They just weren't good, and they were bordering on being really, really racist. So it's probably a better idea that the WWE just abandons those altogether and comes up with a new way to have Jinder Mahal and Shinsuke Nakamura feud against each other, at least until Hell in the Cell in 2 weeks in October. Then we had Aiden English came out to host this ceremony honoring Rusev. These things, the writing on the wall here, every time this happens, is you're inevitably waiting for the opponent to come out and interrupt the ceremony. In this case, we knew Randy Orton was going to come out and give the RKO to probably everybody. So this nonsense ceremony of him getting the key to his hometown and so it was a time waster. That's all it is. It's a time filler. So Aiden English got to sing, and then of course Orton comes out, RKOs everybody, and it's a good time, and then he leaves. Okay, so just more fuel to their fire of their match at Hell in the Cell. Charlotte and Carmella came out. We still see James Ellsworth on a dog chain, and when Carmella has her match, his dog chain is tied up to the rope. I mean, there's no way this can end well for Carmella, right? It has to end with Ellsworth turning on her and refusing to be treated literally like a dog. And hopefully it actually costs her Money in the Bank match and costs her the title opportunity. That would be the most poetic justice. That would be the best way for this to end, at least for Ellsworth. I don't know if WWE's thinking that far ahead, or if they just figure they can ride this out as long as possible. But at least if I was in charge of the writing, I would say ultimately that's where we're going to go. When they want that to happen, I don't know. but I would think that's the only way you end that and being able to salvage something for Ellsworth. Otherwise, he's just literally going to be a punching bag for people hit the rest of his career in the WWE, however long that may be. Dolph Ziggler, again, does the same shtick also. So he and Mahal are essentially stuck on repeat for the last 3 weeks. This time he came out with The Undertaker's music. Maybe there were 2 people who were fooled by this and who actually thought The Undertaker was coming out, and those people were probably 5-year-olds. Because of course it's Dolph Ziggler dressed as The Undertaker, and he comes out and trashes everybody. And then finally we get an opponent for him, though. We had Bobby Roode come out and address what Ziggler was doing. And the whole thing about Ziggler's argument about how I'm the best at what I do, well, he hasn't competed since the 4th of July, since they had this Independence Day Battle Royal, and he was the first man eliminated in that Battle Royal. So Ziggler's counting on wrestling fans having short memories and not remembering that his last few matches were losses. And oh, by the way, he hasn't wrestled in several months. So at least we finally have something going forward here. We have an opponent for him, and that's going to be Bobby Roode at Hell in the Cell. So, and I think that's a solid, good match for Roode now, and they can do some great back and forths over the next couple of weeks as they prepare for that match. So, and I think that's definitely going to be a win for Roode, because there's no way you call a guy like that up to the main roster and then have him job out to Dolph Ziggler, of all people. And Dolph Ziggler is still incredibly talented. So I'm not taking anything away from him, but he's also 37 years old. He's a little older and long in the tooth as far as WWE stars are concerned. So as we've said last week and the week before, nobody is really jumping out of their chairs as far as WWE creative goes and saying we need to push Ziggler into the main event series. If anything, now he's the springboard for other stars to come up, like Bobby Roode. And finally, we had Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. Great match, not a long match, but still they fit a lot of great hard-hitting moves into this. It was very, very entertaining for the few minutes that it lasted. And then eventually Sami Zayn got so hurt that the ref called the match, called it over, and then Owens, of course, looked as if he was contemplating what he had done to his old buddy. And then, of course, he runs over to him and starts beating him up some more. There's like 6 dudes out there, and none of them can physically restrain Kevin Owens. Instead, Kevin Owens is putting Sami Zayn's head in a chair like he's going to smash it into the ring apron and break his neck or something like that. But seriously, I'm counting. I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like, all these people can't just pile on Kevin Owens and grab him and strain him removing. And then Shane McMahon's music comes out, and Shane kind of starts making his way towards Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens takes Sami Zayn and pushes him into Shane and then runs away, which I don't really understand. I get it, it's a heel thing to do, but still, Kevin Owens would never be running away from Shane McMahon. Literally no one would run away from Shane McMahon. He's not a physically intimidating person. He's not like his dad. Vince McMahon was a bodybuilder, and even at 70 years old, he's still a pretty big dude, and he's still a physically imposing man. Shane McMahon isn't. Yeah, he takes big bumps at pay-per-views and stuff like that. But again, he's not someone you fear. He's not someone who comes running at you and it's like Braun Strowman is coming at you, or like a freight train is running towards you and you're about to get demolished. Shane McMahon has never been that guy. So the only reason Kevin Owens hightails it out of there is just because it's the heel thing to do, to beat up on someone and then run away and go into the crowd and do a proverbial double middle fingers to everybody and say, well, I didn't give you the satisfaction of engaging you in a match and then take off. So from that angle, I get it. I just thought it's amusing to see Kevin Owens running away from Shane McMahon. So out of this whole thing, I just wish that this meant something more for Sami Zayn, because ultimately it just means that he got beat up by Kevin Owens. Now, granted, it was a great match and he took bumps and gave some and all that, but it still didn't end up meaning anything for his character going forward, because Kevin Owens is deeply embroiled in the feud with Shane. So where does that leave Sami? Unless it turns into some kind of 3-way match, which I doubt, then Zayn is kind of the one left holding the bag here, and he doesn't come out. He comes out the worse for wear. So that was SmackDown. That was Raw. Those were our 2 shows. What did you think? Was Raw good? Was SmackDown good? Whatever your opinion was. Again, Normally, as you know, on 1005 Live, we have the little comments box here on this side, so I can kind of follow along with everybody as we're going. But again, the gremlins, the circumstances, we had to do it this way. So I sincerely hope you guys, I thank you for your understanding, and I appreciate you kind of rolling with the punches here. But I definitely wanted to make sure that we still brought you a show this week. I didn't want to leave that out, just because I know there are some of you who watch every single week, and I sincerely appreciate you guys being loyal to the show and actually watching. That means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to TYT Sports to know that we've got at least a little bit of a fan base out there. And as time goes on, we'll grow bigger, we'll get better. That's all I've got. So you can follow me on Twitter at Chief Josh O. You can follow TYT Sports on Twitter at TYT Sports. And also congratulations to TYT, the TYT network in general. There's some big awards, web awards show that was just going on, and TYT came away with a whole bunch of those. So I think that's very, very cool. So they're doing great work over at TYT, and I'm proud to be at least a little branch on that very big tree. So thank you guys for giving me that opportunity and allowing me to come here every week and talk about pro wrestling and let everybody forget about all the other stuff that's going on. We don't talk politics here. We don't talk anything else but wrestling here. So if you want to get away from all those other echo chambers, come here and we can talk nothing but wrestling. That's what we love to do. That's what I love to do. And that's what we're all about. So thank you guys. We'll see you next week. 10:05 Live. I'm Josh Gibbs. Thanks again. Bye-bye.